Yes, Tony here, and welcome back to Man Cave Studios for another episode of Pits and Riffs. Ladies and gentlemen, today on the breakdown, I am going to talk about Ziltoid the Omniscient. I have been waiting to talk about Ziltoid for a while, and this series is now a little bit over a year old, so I feel like now is the time to do it. But first, let's get into new riffs. Now, the riff today isn't necessarily new, but I haven't heard it yet. And I'm doing this now because none of the bands I listen to have released any new music recently. But anyways, this is Searchlight by Shinedown. So this song has been out 5 months. I think, yeah. November 18th, 2025 was when the song was released. And yeah, I still haven't listened to it yet. So you're gonna get my reaction to the song that's been out for months that I have yet to listen to. So here we go. Let's see how this is. Let me turn my volume down first because I don't want to like blast this so that way you can't kind of hear my reaction. But anyways, here we go. Okay, that's an acoustic guitar.
I'm a new soul, working my way down an old road.
Oh, this is very country.
Asphalt churches all around.
This is exclusive
Roots
country.
break through this deep foundation.
I wonder if this is almost like a symptom of being human where it's just gonna stay this way the whole time. Or if it'll pick up at some point.
No one taught me how to let go. Been hanging by a thread on a tightrope, and you can't speak what you don't know. That's for sure. So don't wait up for me. I don't need your searchlight.
This.
While you're fast asleep. I'm running free.
Yeah. This is just gonna be a like slow emotional country from start to finish. What does this remind me of? This reminds me of something from like Sound of Madness. What a shame, maybe? Oh, there we go. Picked up a little bit.
Raindrops fall and they feel like the open ocean.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of What a Shame.
Shimmer in the dark.
Okay. I am curious about this being released as a single. I don't mind the song. I am very curious about this as a single though, because singles usually are indicators of how the rest of the album will be. But the other singles from this album, well, I don't know. They've gone a little bit back and forth. Like 365 was a little different from Dance Kid Dance, but. This is definitely on the album, sandwiched between like 2 of their heavy songs. There's no way it's not. Watch me be right when this album comes out next month. I mean, yeah, it's country, but it's still got a little bit of a Shinedown feel to it, you know? It doesn't sound like it's not by them.
Just looking for a place on solid ground.
I mean, that's what this band does anyway. It's a mix of country and rock. Yeah, they're going a little bit for a symptom of being human with this one. This is gonna be the song they play in the concerts where they ask you to take your phones out and put the flashlight on. It's very commercialized, but it's not bad. Yeah, I feel like this was intended for the people that obsessed over a symptom of being human. But it does remind me a lot of What a Shame as well. I like it, you know. I mean, it's unique, but at the same time, not really. You know, Shinedown is more of a hard rock band, but they will occasionally throw in a song like this. So it's not like surprising, that this is what they have on the new album. I think it is a little bit surprising that it's a single. Um, but again, I think they're just trying to tap into the symptom of being human crowd with this one. So, good song. Not my favorite because I like hard rock and heavy metal mostly, but there you go. So, Shinedown's new album is coming out, I think, in a little over a month now. So I'm looking forward to that. There's 18 songs on that album, and I think they've released 5 of them. So, let's get into the breakdown. Like I said, I've really wanted to do this for a long time. Ziltoid the Omniscient. I love the two Ziltoid albums, I think are fantastic. This is the first one. Now, usually I'll give like a backstory on where kind of the artists are at with, their albums as they kind of get into the cycle of the new one. This was not really part of an album cycle. This was a little bit different. And Devin Townsend has had a number of his different bands over the years. The Devin Townsend Band, the Devin Townsend Project, just Devin Townsend, Strapping Young Lad, and whatever is going on now, or was going on last year and released Power Nerd. But regardless, this is a completely, when I say solo work, I mean it in the truest sense of that word. This is the solo album, okay? Sometimes you'll hear solo album is like, oh, the artist went off on his own, from a group like, I don't know, like Dream Theater, for example. An artist like John Petrucci goes off and makes his own work. But there is still help with mixing at the very least. There's still somebody else playing drums and all the other instruments that the guy who is off on his own doesn't play. This is not a case of that. This is a case of Devin Townsend did just about everything on this album. I mean, except for basically the mastering, some of the engineering, and some of the vocal pieces. And I would just assume that they're like the little pieces in By Your Command where you hear the Captain Spectacular. But he did the drums with a software application called Easy Drummer. Obviously, he played guitar on this album. That's what he does. He's an amazing guitarist. There's not a lot of bass. I don't know if there is bass in this album. He did the vocals. He did everything. He did everything on this album. It's pretty incredible. So, let's talk about the plot as well. I'll go through it piece by piece, but I'm going to concentrate a lot on the plot. So, it starts off with kind of the prequel to it all, or like the like how everything is supposed to start. Ziltoid descends from outer space. He's this fourth dimensional puppet who is a metaphor for Devin Townsend's inner ego. And so he descends onto Earth in pursuit of a cup of coffee. He likes his coffee black. He wants the humans on Earth to find him the blackest, best coffee imaginable. And he gives them 5 minutes. And that is ZTO. Then we get into By Your Command, which is about 8 minutes long, maybe a little more than that. And this is more about Ziltoid, trying to get that cup of coffee, and then ultimately when he doesn't get the cup of coffee and he thinks that the humans are not giving him the best cup of coffee, he plans to go to war with the humans. So there's a little bit of back and forth. Eventually, Captain Spectacular, who is, I don't know if he's introduced as Captain Spectacular in this one at any point, but that's who it essentially is. I think it's a little bit later that they introduce him as Captain Spectacular, but he is the one in charge of getting his group of humans to go to war with Ziltoid. And so he gives this great pep talk. Hold your position, men. Do not fire until I tell you to fire. Have you got that? Hold your position. Ziltoid, he comes. And then it ends with this like choir piece. That's what it's listed on Genius as, where it's just it's really what a lot of Devin Townsend's music is, you know? It sounds great. It doesn't make sense, but it sounds great. This pound, 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 keep pushy, push, pound, pound, pound. I love it. And I got to hear the song live, and you better believe it, I was headbanging to this aggressively. Pound, 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 keep pushy, push. Pound, 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 pound. Love it. Then you get into the greatest name of a track on this album, which is Ziltoidia Attacks. Ziltoidia is the planet where Ziltoid came from. So his minions, Ziltoid's minions, basically during this part are starting their war against the humans. And he's still trying to get the best cup of coffee. They're telling the humans, we're gonna destroy the earth unless you give us this cup of coffee. And this is funny because in the next Ziltoid album, Dark Matters, it starts the same way. One of the songs, Death Ray, starts the same way that this one does. People of Earth, we are your Ziltoidian overlords. Resistance is futile. Well, in Death Ray, people of Earth, we are your Puzonian overlords because we introduced the Poozers, and that's a whole separate thing. And we'll talk about that in the future. Not today, because that's not this album. Today is just about the first Ziltoid album. But this is the start of the war. That they're starting this war on the humans, trying to get this cup of coffee. Now, Solar Winds is Captain Spectacular. This is where he's introduced for the first time as Captain Spectacular. He is trying to expose Ziltoid now, for being a nerd. But in reality, he is trying to find a solution to deal with Ziltoid. Captain Spectacular is trying to find the solution. So he is going to the fifth dimensional Nebulo 9. And I think this is where he's supposed to kind of take the humans. I think that was the plan, and he's trying to expose Ziltoid here. And I think ultimately he does expose Ziltoid. You finally get to kind of hear from him, where now he's sort of narrating this part, where it becomes a little bit more like scenes from a memory, like by Dream Theater, where now like the lyrics are his own. In scenes from a memory, a lot of the time it's not a narrator talking, it's the characters talking. And so this is kind of the same way. I must rise, I must find a way, for this Ziltoid must surely pay. So he's off in the solar system, he's looking for the answer, as to how to defeat Ziltoid. Ziltoid catches wind of this, or one of Ziltoid's commanders have caught word of this, and so now he's got to go and pursue Captain Spectacular and the humans as they are on their way to Nebulo 9. Then the next one is Hyperdrive. This one was repeated in a couple albums later in Addicted, which was part of the first Devin Townsend project albums, and Annika sung that one. I don't think a lot of this really deals necessarily with the album itself, or with like what the context is supposed to be. And there's a lot of this, especially late in the album, where a lot of it becomes about really what Ziltoid is about, which is Devin's alter ego. And, trying to find the solution for his kid was just born, which is why he's making this album on his own in his basement. And so I think that this is one of those songs that it's kind of like, how he's sort of dealing with it a little bit, And also, it does end on the note of like, okay, now let's get back to the plot. So, having made their way through space, Captain Spectacular and his intrepid crew have arrived at Nebulo 9. Unbeknownst to the humans, Ziltoid has also arrived. Haha, surprise, says Ziltoid. And so on N9, which stands for Nebulo 9, Um, this is where kind of the first battle between Ziltoid and the humans is happening. And again, a lot of this is not necessarily about like what the war is, whereas Dark Matters is very heavy on the context and like what's happening and exactly when it's happening. Uh the lyrics don't match with really the story here. The only time you really hear, again, it's a lot like Hyperdrive, where the only time you really hear from Ziltoid directly and it gets back to the plot is towards the end of the song, where Ziltoid is saying, I feel so vulnerable. So I think at this part, Captain Spectacular has kind of done what he intended to do, which was expose Ziltoid as a nerd, and so Ziltoid is feeling vulnerable, and now he is forced to retreat. Um, and yeah. So then you get into Planet Smasher, which is where we kind of get back to the plot a little bit more. And Ziltoid is seeking out this sixth dimensional Planet Smasher. And I would imagine this is a little bit of time later because he's debating which planet he wants to destroy. It's not necessarily Earth and the humans. Um, So he's debating, and then he ultimately comes to the conclusion that he wants to destroy planet Earth for a little bit of entertainment. So he is trying to summon the Planet Smasher. He eventually does. He awakens a Planet Smasher, and then it becomes a musical. Now, the Planet Smasher doesn't like musicals. So the Planet Smasher is asking him to bow to him in this musical, and then at the end of it, the Planet Smasher says, "Be gone, foul pest," because basically he doesn't really care much for Ziltoid or what Ziltoid wants to do about destroying planet Earth. Remember, the Planet Smasher is the sixth dimensional, and Ziltoid is fourth dimensional. So Ziltoid is kind of looking at the humans the whole time as like, oh, these poor little creatures, we can destroy them kind of as we please, because they're only third dimensional, I'm fourth dimensional. And he gets rejected by the sixth dimensional Planet Smasher, whose name is Herman, and Herman hates musicals. And that winds up being what saves the humans in Dark Matters as well. After that, uh, Ziltoid goes to seek out the omnidimensional creator, which I think is I would assume from a higher dimension, The omnidimensional creator is this guy that apparently obviously sees everything. He's omniscient as well. A lot like Ziltoid is. Ziltoid basically sees everything because he's omniscient, which is the same as omniscient. It's at least spelled the same way, so I don't know. You lose a plot a little bit here, but Ziltoid is kind of talking about what's confusing him to the omnidimensional creator. He's kind of come to the conclusion like a few songs ago that this whole infinity thing he can't really understand, and he's trying to really understand like what his role is in the universe. And so he goes on this little speech of modular forms and elliptic curves, infinite fire revolving around infinite parallels, fractals of infinite reality, each cascading, gliding in an infinite wheel. Tell me the true nature of my reality. It's very much like a cutscene from a play. And the omnidimensional creator responds with, very simply, you gotta chill, man. And this is the the omnidimensional creator just sounds like this guy that's friendly guy, but he might be on something. And yeah, and so that's the omnidimensional creator for you. So, color your world. This is where the both of the plots kind of intersect. Devin Townsend's plot with his life, and the Ziltoid plot with his war against the humans. So at the start, you kind of have these two lines that are callbacks to previous songs, which is worth mentioning. So, sooner or later, the Nights with the Satyr will bring back the memory in time, which is from Wrong Side from the New Black off SYL. or SYL's The New Black. The next one is from the Ocean Machine album, Devin's second solo album, which a lot of fans still love. I love that album. Who's the Weakest Now? Caught Up in the Wire. I'm Already Gone. Who's the Weakest? I love the line, Who's the Weakest Now? That became kind of a motto of my life when I was sort of like, you know, building myself up through college, especially. But this is from Voices in the Fan. Love that song. Love that whole album, though. And so Ziltoid is going back and forth in his mind. You know, he's got this ego, and at the same time, like, he's trying to solve the ego. You know, he says, like, I'm Ziltoid, the horror. But at the same time, he's, like, trying to figure out what is his nature in the universe. What is his reality, you know? And so, yeah. Then it gets to be a little bit later, and this is where Ziltoid and Devin's life kind of intersect. So Ziltoid's family is apparently singing to Ziltoid in kind of a flashback, which is funny because Ziltoid's family comes up later. Stay at home for me, you and I are free. Tune out for a while, etc. And this is, I think, also a metaphor for like Devin Townsend, you know, staying home to make this album because he has been burnt out by this point from touring. And he just had his first child. And so he's kind of not stuck at home, but this I think is a perfect line that kind of summarizes it. In time, you'll be gone again, tune out for a while. So that's basically like, you know, Devin knows that one day he's going to leave again and go out on tour. But he's trying to tune out for a little bit of time, which sounds very familiar to what he's doing now. And then the Omnidimensional Creator wraps up this song with telling Ziltoid exactly what he is and what everybody is. Puppets. They are all puppets. Everybody is a puppet. In their own kind of play, I would assume. And then my favorite song off the album is The Gray, or The Grays. Sorry, I'm thinking of the Tesseract song right now, The Gray. The Grays. This is, again, more of a song that doesn't really have to do with the album. It's an amazing song. It's very heavy. It's a little bit gent. The Grays flood our memories in the long haul. Can the Grays wash away? This is about, like, you know, I guess trying to solve like the issues in your life, you know, and kind of emerge from the other side. You know, the Grays are what flood our memories in the long haul, but also try to move away from that in a sense. And then it ends with Tall Latte, which is basically this is all a dream. This is a guy that has dreamed up this plot for the story, and this guy works at like a coffee shop, and he's supposed to be giving his customers coffee, which is very fitting because that was what Ziltoid was here for originally, a cup of coffee. And so the boss is telling him, "Hey, slacker, wake up!" And so yeah, this was some teenage kid's daydream, some teenage kid who didn't know necessarily what he was doing in his job serving coffee. So yeah, that's Ziltoid the Omniscient. I tried to explain that the best I possibly can. I know I left out probably a lot of details. The important thing, I think, is that this is an album that was done by one single person, which is pretty incredible. And also, like, this is not the end of the Ziltoid saga. So there are certain callbacks in the next one, which comes out 7 years later. And that was part of a double album. The first part of it was Sky Blue. The second part was Dark Matters. Dark Matters was the Ziltoid part of it. And yeah. So I love Ziltoid. I love the plot. I got to see By Your Command live when I went to see Dream Sonic a few years ago. It was a great concert between the two of them. And so, yeah, that's Ziltoid the Omniscient. Alright, soon in a pit near you. There's not much that I haven't really talked about already. There's really not anything I haven't talked about already. I mean, Shinedown is coming in July to Philadelphia. I still haven't got my tickets for that. I will get my tickets for that at some point. I promise you. You'll get a Shinedown vlog. Encore, May 6th and 5th. I'm going to both. I got tickets for the New York concert as well. I'm going to vlog one of them, probably the Philly concert, and I'm just going to enjoy the New York concert. But yeah, that is next. And the next time I do an episode of this, it'll be in a little over a month, I would assume. I kind of gave away my plans for this channel right here. But yeah, the next Pits and Riffs episode, I'll be breaking down that concert. I haven't looked at the set list yet. I know they play the most recent song that they just released because it was kind of spoiled to me. I would assume they play all 3 tracks, all 3 of the singles from this new project with the anime characters they're working on. And I just really hope they play Stereo as well, because I love Stereo. And I hope they play like a decent length set, because I love this band so much. And I'm gonna meet them as well, so that's gonna be amazing. I cannot wait. I really cannot tell you how excited I am for this concert. Anyways, that is going to be it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching this edition of Pits and Riffs, and peace out, broskies.